And we're back. It is COMP2068 in the winter 2016 semester, so that's advanced web programming. And we're doing full stack stuff today. Again, more on the main stack. We've done Express, we've done Node, and we've done Mongo at length over the last 3 weeks. And today we're going to start with Angular. Right now, again, a couple things to start when we talk about Angular a little bit. And I want to talk about AngularJS. Again, you can find AngularJS and all the details for this up on angularjs.org, right? Notice that it says download AngularJS 1 and try the new Angular 2, right? Is the new Angular 2 ready? I would say still they're still developing. They're starting to come up with more and more training and documentation for Angular 2. I mean, it's pretty good. Is it easier than Angular 1? Absolutely not. I would say, honestly, if you didn't know TypeScript, right, it would be even harder, right? Because you'd have to learn a little bit of TypeScript for you to make it work. Now, I don't know, does anyone here know TypeScript? Because if you know a little bit of TypeScript, it makes Angular 2 a little easier than, I mean, to learn if you haven't learned it before. Is it harder than learning Angular 1 without TypeScript? I would say it's still harder, even with TypeScript. And even if you know TypeScript, it's still a little bit more complex to learn because there's a lot of syntax that's new, right? And it's not the concept, the whole idea of an MV star, MVC, whatever you want to call it, network or a framework. It's not about that. It's about the other pieces. So Angular is not easy to learn, 100%. It's definitely a front-end technology, and there's some really cool competing technologies out there. I have to mention them because this is a full stack course. It's not an Angular course, right? So let's take a look at that. One of them is called React, right? So if you want to look at React JS, which is what I really want to see. So here it is. React is definitely a competing front-end technology, right? In our documentation, the stuff we talked about for our for this final project. Let me bring it up for a second. And again, we did a bit of a broadcast last week because of the weather. I apologize for that. But let's take a look at it. So we have a couple things that are due this week. So again, this thing is broken up into a few parts, 4 parts. One of them, this project concept, right, is something I want to talk to each of you today, right? So all of your groups, I want to get together. My hope is that there's going to be at least 3 or 4 of you here. If you have a group, if representatives are missing for your group, it's okay. I don't have to talk to every single person. But I want to have a clear idea of what you're building, right? So we talk about that. If there's going to be any kind of, I want to talk about divergent ideas, right? So you're going to try to build something new that we haven't talked about before. Today, I need to talk to you. It's not even it's not an if, it's a I have to do it, right? Because you know what? So please let me know if there's something that you're building that's not the norm, not one of these 3 basic projects that I've outlined here. Then we got to discuss it because I don't want you kind of writing yourself into a black hole. That would be very bad. Okay. So let's talk about that. So that's one thing I want to talk to you guys about today, and also have an understanding of how you're going to submit, how you submit a project that's with multiple people, what I'm expecting from each of you, all that kind of stuff. I want to talk to each of the groups today, right? So one thing that's due is your first draft of your external document, like I said, and then your initial project structure, which is like a hello world. Make a hello world, kind of thing. You have a, whatever structure you're going to use, and so on. Some of the questions I got an email from some of you are, can I use a scaffold? Can I use like meanstack.js, as a scaffold? Can I use Sails? Can I use Yeoman? Can I use, other scaffolds out there? Sure, use them, right? Well, you'll find that you're going to spend some time figuring out what the scaffold is doing, right? And even the Express generator, that's a scaffold, right? Because you're getting the pieces, the framework for your application, but you still have to figure out where everything is in your app, how it works, how it's tied together, all that kind of stuff. Even with the API documentation for some of these more successful scaffolds, like for example, mean.js. Let's take a look at that one. Just going to mention these things because I want you to understand these things. So if I go mean.js, right, this is a full stack framework, right? You can certainly download it, and there's a Yo generator for this. So you can grab this thing. It'll actually generate everything. It has built-in security. It has built-in other pieces. Am I going to disallow this kind of thing? I would say no. I'm going to allow it. right? You can certainly scaffold your application this way because it's not about, at this stage, it's not about can you do it. You've proven it, over the last, several, weeks in different stages. You've proven that you can do certain things. Now it's not about that. Now it's about, okay, can you assimilate your knowledge and put together a project? So you want to use a scaffold, all the power, right? Go ahead, try and do it, right? I recommend still that you start with your Express generator, the stuff we've done in class. It's a little easier, it's a little smaller, right? And you can look at some of this code. You can certainly download the code and go, how did they do it, right? What did they do for their authentication? It's a different way than I did it, I'll tell you right now, right? Each one of these generators do things in a slightly different way. So mean.js is one, it's a very popular one. React is a different front end that I would entertain. So let's say, for example, you said, Tom, we love to do this project, but we really want to use React on our front end. Can I do that? And I would say, okay, right? It's up to you. I'm not going to teach you React, but if you really want to use React instead of Angular, there's not going to be a React module, but there's still going to be some kind of front end technology module, which is going to be today. We're going to do an Angular front end, but you can certainly use React because React has 50% of the market right now, right? So I would say definitely Angular and React on par, right, with each other. Here's an up-and-comer that I would say no to using for now. Okay, please don't use Meteor, right? So if you want to use Meteor.js, right, as an example, definitely a new contender out there. Why? Because as you see in the demo, you create your app. It's all in one. It's very opinionated in terms of how you build things out. And at the end of the day, you can come up with something that's very quick. But again, you're going to focus on customization with Meteor as opposed to anything else, right? So there's less coding to be done here. Damn, even a monkey can code this one, right? Seriously, if you want to do a full stack app with Meteor, it's like literally close one eye and you're done with the stuff you know, right? But I'm not going to allow it for this project. This is really, I want to see your full stack skills. So when you build stuff out, so this won't be something I will not allow, all right? So please don't try and come up with a Meteor app. It's not going to fly, all right? No pun intended. Let's just crash like the Meteor app does, right? Meteor. So that's gone. Mean.js is another front end. What about if you wanted to use another thing? Like, for example, I want to use Sales, right? Sales.js. Sales is another scaffold, right? And it uses Angular on the front end and so on. And it kind of sets up with enough, there's enough plugins for Sales that you could set up an app to work with things like any kind of backend server. So if you want to run things like with Mongo, or if you want to use things with SQL, or if you want to do things with other kind of databases, Sales.js is for you, right? I'll tell you, it's not for the meek-hearted, and Sales.js there's quite a bit of a learning curve with Sales. So if you're going to try and map something out with Sales, it's a good skill to have. I don't recommend it. And you'd have to have a really strong group of people that know JavaScript very well and are very versed with what they're doing already. Just like I would say, trying to build ticketing system, right, with Sales would be like the two hardest things you can do. So you're kind of doing the incident management piece and you're using Sales. That's just crazy, right? You'd have to have 4 superstars on your team that are really, really well versed with what they're doing. So I don't recommend it. Okay, but it's just something else that's been up. The other one is there's lots of scaffolds you can download from something called Yeoman, right? So if you go to yeoman.io, right, you can certainly download. First of all, you install Yeoman with npm install -geo, so it's a global installation. And then from there, there's a lot of different generators, right? So if I was to go click Getting Started, actually, let's go click Discovering Generators. You can see that here there's a React full stack generator, and you can see that how many stars it's getting, how often, how many installs that they've done with it, and so on. That's why I'm telling you React is really, really popular. The other one is Angular, right? There's an Angular JS generator, right? That's really popular, 24,000 installs that they've done. And what you do, whether you get Angular, Angular full stack, or any one of these other ones, you can see that there's a bunch of these, scaffolds that people build out. I would allow this because, again, you're starting off. It's just like a generator. Instead of using Express, now you're using a React full stack or Angular. You can certainly explore this stuff as part of your framework that you're going to put up for Friday, right? I'm okay with it. Again, my warning to you for this stuff is you don't have me with you to sit down and say, okay, let's parse this particular scaffold. Let's see how everything's laid out. And that's something you're gonna have to do on your own. So I'll give you an example of this is, let's take a look at Angular full stack, right? So this is, again, 8,300 downloads or installs, a bunch of stars. This has been updated fairly recently. You wanna see these things, eh? If it's something that's updated a long time ago, like for example, you know, years ago, if you keep going down here, like a year ago, like this one, you probably don't want to download this one or use this one if it's not being, you know, updated regularly. Some of them are, you know, 6 minutes ago, Gulp Angular. So they updated this one like a few minutes ago. Like literally, it's like it's in development, right? So be careful. Some of it's updating too frequently. Sometimes it's updating not frequently enough. Let's take a look at this one. If I go click Angular full stack, right? A lot of them have you know, this GitHub you know, project as an example that you can certainly fork if you want to do it by yourself. And a lot of them have you know, pretty good documentation on how to use this thing, how to install it, how to include things like your configuration. It has built-in testing, you know, how to connect to different databases. You can see how it can connect to SQL as well. How you can do injection in terms of CSS, or whether, if you want to use SAS or whatever you want to use here. Different kinds of generators for routes and controllers, filters, directives, services, the whole thing, right, that are built in. You can certainly do it, but you have to read through all the documentation, and it's like learning a whole new application, right? So, yeah, I mean, sure, if you got the manpower for it, or woman power, like you have 4 people on your team, and one person wants to conquer this stuff and share it with the team, all the power, I say to you again, but you only have until tomorrow to scaffold it out, right? I'm gonna allow it though. If you guys really want to do it, and you want to use some kind of generator, that's fine. Things that won't work. Please don't try and make a WordPress site, right? I'm just going to say it because in the past I've gotten, I know it's not full stack, but some people for whatever reason think still PHP, MySQL, and Apache is a full stack, the modern full stack way of doing things. No, okay, I want to say it nicely like that, right? So please don't make an AMP site. All right, yes, you know PHP, but and you're saying, you know, it explicitly says here in the documentation that you're supposed to make a site with JavaScript technologies, not the AMP stack. And yes, you can probably figure out a way to run WordPress in some funky, weird, you know, bastardized way on Node. Please don't do that. That's just really, it'd be weird, right, to do. And it's like, it's not really the point of this whole exercise. So so again, generators are okay. Be careful. React is okay. What if you wanted to use Knockout or Ember? Those are the other two, right? So if I say Knockout, a little bit older, Knockout.js, right? Again, front-end technology, MVVM type framework, yeah, that's right, MVVM type framework. Fairly well documented. I can't say anything wrong about this one. Again, it's pure JavaScript on the front end, very popular for a while. Again, I think it's still less. I don't know if it's 3rd or 4th. I think it's 4th now when it comes to popular frameworks. And the other one, of course, is Ember.js. So there's all kinds of them out there. Again, it's all supported by NPM and Bower and all kinds of other stuff that's out there that'll support it. So there's Ember, Knockout, Angular, React. Those are the main ones. Anyone else have anything else that they want to try using? It's all kinds, right? These are the main ones. If you want to use some other front end, is what I'm saying, it's okay. All right. But for today, what I want you to do is on the Angular site, and when I stop talking about this stuff today, we're going to spend 45 minutes, right, going through the videos, right? So I'm not going to do it, and this is I want to call this a you know, self-learn online learning module that I'm including in the course, right? So it's not like I don't want to teach you Angular. It's not about that. Just putting it out there. It's because they've got it laid out very well, right? And it's a good background. It's like you doing pre-reading before we start doing our Angular learning, right? And so for people who haven't had the experience, it's a little different way of thinking. So it's good to kind of do a short tutorial on it, which you're getting paid for, because I'm giving you 2% for it, right? It's pretty much free. I mean, like, come on. All you do is do the tutorial, and you do a couple screenshots, and you get your 2%, right? And then once you finish, it's an opportunity for you to finish the whole thing. Again, I only need you to do probably a couple modules, and then do your back end, which I'm going to give you the details of today. So again, I want you to do this free course from Code School. I'm going to give you some time to start it today to get you going on it. I'm not going to put the video up online here. I'm going to get you to do it on your while I go and talk to the other team members. So as I talk to one team, two, team three, you're going to be doing this, right? So we'll give it kind of will kill two birds with one stone. You know, you're doing some of you in this kind of stuff. At the same time, I'll be talking to a team about their concept for tomorrow, right? And then we'll get to that, all right? So please go to this. If you're not here, if you're watching this video remotely and your team is here, some of your peeps are here and stuff like this, contact them, get a hold of them, because you want to have those conversations so you know what you're doing for your team. If you're not here, the entire team is not here, I'd be concerned, but sometimes that's possible. Please let me know at a very high level if you can connect with me and let me know what you're doing if we haven't talked by the end of the day. All right, so this is one part of what we're doing. The other piece is I've got a little PowerPoint that I'm going to be kind of following today. It's called Intro to Angular, right? And we're going to go over step by step what Angular is, right? At the same time, after you've done your little learning on your own, right? We're going to step through this PowerPoint presentation to kind of go through what Angular is. And there's this is going to take up the rest of the time we have together. So really, it's an intro day today into Angular, and I'll give you a little application we're going to work on today. And then next week we'll get into more Angular and how to kind of put together Angular with Express and to build a kind of an off to do where you have a to do or a task list, and then you're going to kind of use Express on the back end and Angular on the front end, and it kind of gives you the whole full stack that you need in order for you to make your final project. Okay, so by next week we'll have that done. And then we'll keep on doing more Angular, maybe an hour at a time until the end. All right, so I won't be able to give you, 3-4 full hours of Angular every single time we get together, but we'll have a little bit of Angular as we go towards the end of the course. Questions about today? Anybody else have anything else that they want to say? No? Okay. So you guys are clear? Let's go back and talk about that stuff that's due for tomorrow. Right. So again, tomorrow, just before we stop recording this one, first draft of your external document means you need wireframes. Okay, this is what this means. I want you to show me what you're in your mind, even if you draw them on paper, right? And I'm serious. Draw them on a napkin, take a picture, put them on in your external document. It doesn't matter to me how you do it, right? What your site's going to look like, right? So think about what your site. What's your theme? Is it going to be one of these three? Survey site, a bracket tournament site, or an incident management app? Again, difficulty level 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 10, right? Like, please don't try and do the incident management site unless you're crazy. And it's hard to do well. It's not hard to do. It's just really hard to do well. There's a lot of piece parts to it. You need a really good team, and you need to be really dedicated and motivated, right? And I can't say that enough. I've had several people who've tried this in the past, and they've just crashed and burned, right? So please don't do it. It's disheartening, you know what I'm saying, when I see it, and I'm like, wow, they really missed the mark on this one, right? Like, how could they miss the mark? I've talked about it to death, right? But they still do it. So, please, I really recommend one of these two, right? And if you want a little bit of challenge, this is a little bit more challenge because there's a graphic component to this one. This one, there's not really a graphic component, but this one there is. There's other things, more challenging logic behind the scenes to make this all work. Okay, so the first draft requires you to do some kind of wireframes. Talk about your concept a little bit, what you're doing, who's working on the project with you. Kind of initial setup is, you do your scaffold, whether you use the Express generator, a previous assignment. Let's say, for example, you said, I have assignment 4 or 3 or whatever you have, 2, whichever one you want to choose. I have a previous assignment, and it has authentication, and it has links to my Mongo database, and all. I want to modify that, and I want to use that as a start-off point. I'm okay with this because that's what we do, right? We use a previous website, and then we modify it heavily, and we make a new one, right? It's almost like a template, right? But you have to make it so that it doesn't say assignment 2. I don't want you to hand in assignment 2 for your final for your project, right? This is, by the way, Tom, I know I didn't want to rename anything because it's really hard, but I've kind of, put up assignment 2, and that's my final project, right? No, please rename everything properly. Call it your final project. Call it whatever it's supposed to be. Redo things properly. Spend a little bit of time with your team planning things out. We need to talk about these things. One more thing before I let you go, and I think this is kind of an important one. It's going to take a few minutes to discuss, but I need to do it because some of you, even though you've taken some project management. I think some of you still don't quite get the process, so we need to talk about it just a little bit today, just so that we're clear. So like right now, we're kind of in the engagement phase. Think about in real life what you're going to be doing, right? I'm trying to pull up something that I've used before in a client meeting. So an example of this would be, you have your engagement phase, right? And your project, the way it works is you have a client interview. So imagine like we're going to role play for a second. So, I have a client. His name is Jack. He wants to revise his website. By the way, notice I said revise, and he doesn't want a new website because you know what? Most times we revise websites. We do revisions. We don't do brand new websites. It's very rare that we're going to do a massive website that's brand new. It's not going to happen, right? Even if you do a website for your buddy, he's probably got a business card online that he's kind of used as a website, or some kind of WordPress site that he used, or a Wix site that he kind of downloaded and made it work. It's still a revision, even though you have to smash it apart and use something new, right? So you talk about you talk to your client what he wants or she wants. Try and figure out who your target audience is. So if you're making, in this particular case, you're thinking about a survey site. Who's your target audience for your survey site or your bracket site? What kind of people are going to be using this thing? Think about the user profile. Someone's going to go online and use it some way. Like, what's the reason for them using it, right? And then start doing requirements gathering. What do I need to build out? What are the little piece parts? Well, requirements gathering for you guys right now is take a look at your project, your final project document that says, hey, here's all the things you need to do. That's your requirements gathering, right? That's part of what you have to do. Technical specifications are things like, well, what kind of server am I going to deploy things on, and and what kind of technical problems am I going to have? How do I flesh these out in terms of how I'm going to, what kind of technologies am I going to use? Am I going to use a full stack with Angular or React? How am I going to deal with this thing? This is part of the engagement phase, part of the concept phase, if you will, right? Kind of put together a project scope, things that are in scope and out of scope. Guys and girls, please don't add super functionality to your app without hitting the core requirements, all right? So the requirements I've given you on your document are the ones that I want you to nail, all right? The other ones, if you're thinking about some really cool features, that's a future feature, or that's something you can get to later, right? Please just hit the requirements for me. That would be really good. We start doing some project estimation. How long do you think, here's the question, I've kind of handed this thing out last week, and if you've read the document at all and it's up on Blackboard, how long do you think this thing will take? I'm just asking. So I'm asking people, how about the people in the back, right? How many hours do you think this project is going to take? Are you guys all working together on it? Just questioning. Yeah. So the 4 of you are working on it. How many hours in this, what are you working on, by the way? Just curious. The tournament bracket. Okay, so a little bit of UI. It's going to be a little bit of UI demanding on this thing, right? Because you got to show the bracket somehow, whether it's in a field or whatever. There's some UI, right? And it's going to be responsive. It doesn't have to be necessarily mobile first, but responsive, right? And there's some piece parts to it. How long do you think, number of hours, right, that this whole thing will take? What's your project estimation time? How many?
That's at 40 plus.
40 hours plus, yeah. Right? Okay. I'll say 60 hours plus. Okay. Not because I'm telling you that. And listen, not because I tell you that I don't think you're right. I think maybe if you guys are a really tight knit team and somehow you can meet together and do all the things, all the right things, and right, cross your T's and dot your I's and all that stuff. Good luck. Maybe it'll take you 40 hours if you're really good. I'll tell you right now, with this level of scope and everything else that I've asked for, and there's 4 of you, chances are I'll take 60 hours because there's overhead meeting. There's overhead getting together. There's overhead trying to get things going, right? It's not easy to be in a group, even if you all love each other, right? I'm just being honest. And you know why? Because you're going to get together and you're going to talk about other crap, right? Right? You get together and you start shooting the crap, right? And then, you start going off base, and the hour that you've dedicated to getting together and talking about your project, you're going to talk about, I'm just saying, right? It's going to be, so actual hours is going to take about 60 hours. I'm just telling you like that, right? How it is, right? So estimation, it's going to take you 60 hours. So when you build a client, how much do you build a client? If it's going to cost you 60 hours, it's one of the things I've always been asked, right? How much money do you build a client, especially if you're a student? You want to make an app for a client, right? It's going to take 60 hours, 100 hours, let's say. Let's say 100 hours to make it even, right? So that way we can easily figure that out. How many hours are you going to bill by the hour? Possible. You can do that, especially if it's a custom application, and most of them are, right? And how much are you going to bill by the hour, right? Any hands, any ideas? Come on, give me some numbers, guys. I want to use you, right? Maybe I can hire you if you tell me a number, right? Come on.
16 bucks an hour.
That's like too low, man. How many of you can I hire? Can I hire 10 of you for $16 an hour? Too low. $30 an hour is a little bit better, but not quite good enough, right? $30 an hour is what you should pay yourself, right? So what are you going to charge the client? 45, right? And I'll give you a number around there. I'm not joking around. You're like, what the hell is he talking about? $45 an hour? It's only 100 hours, guys, right? So for $4,500 bucks, you're going to get a full stack app, right? That's working on Node. Right? It's not. It sounds like nothing, but when I'm saying $4,500, I'm talking about, taxes and everything else plus, right? On top of that, right? So now you're thinking, okay, $4,500 bucks. How does he get that number, right? Because for a 100-hour app, you need to have images that you have to put together. You have to put together the database. You have to make sure that all the pages work, that they're all responsive, that you go through all the CSS. We're not talking about a slap job, right? I say that. I meant that it's something that you're going to take care of doing properly. Yeah.
Does that include like SSL certificates?
Everything, dude. The whole thing, the whole piece. I'm estimating about 100 hours, right? SSL certificate. They're going to pay for the SSL certificate. You'd have to charge them for that, right? Any other kind of custom work, they want additional custom content, more images, sounds, videos, all that stuff. That's extra, right? I'm talking about their content putting together on a site. $4,500 bucks, 100 hours. And that's an average, by the way. That's cheap, right? So I know you might think that's crazy. I can put a WordPress site together in 10 minutes, right? Even if you do, you still have to heavily customize, right? Because you have to meet the client's colors and branding. Okay, that's required. The functionality has to be there. And you know what? To make it a really good WordPress site, it can't look like WordPress. So it looks like WordPress, and if it actually has, unless you customize the pathing and everything else, so I can't tell it's WordPress. It's going to look like crap at the end. Even the best theme you can download for 50 bucks, right? It's still going to look like crap, right? For the most part, it's not going to work properly either. You got to do some heavy customization, and it's all in PHP for God's sake. What would you want to work on that? So, I'm just saying, right? I'm sorry, I'm being opinionated, but that's how it is. My opinion. So, estimation-wise, you're going to spend like 60, 100 hours on this thing. Think about paying yourself. If you're actually paying yourself 30 bucks an hour. And you wouldn't pay yourself 30 bucks an hour. I'm being facetious. Let's say you're paying someone who's a junior programmer 20 bucks an hour, all right? And that's more realistic, seriously, right? 15 to 20 is what you would probably pay a junior web designer. 20 to 30 or 20 to 25 you're going to play more of a project leader. So you have one person that's kind of leading the project. They're going to get paid $25, $30 an hour for the duration of the project, which is 100 hours, let's say, right? But they may not have 100 hours of project time, right? Think about this. Do they really need 100 hours of project time? No, it's 100 hours for the whole project, right? So there's going to be 10 hours of project time and 5 hours of development time and 3 hours of this and 10 hours of that. And when you break it out like that, the project manager is getting paid 30 bucks an hour to the least number of hours, right? So he's not going to get a lot of time, right? And that's the problem. Okay, so this is just one model. I'm not saying this is the be-all and end-all, but this is very typical when we look at website creation. So we have an engagement phase. We have some deliverables, and one of them is this proposal document. So you're going to put a proposal document out to your client saying, here's my proposal, here's what it's going to cost you, here's when it's going to be delivered, here are the dates that I'm going to hit. And each of the dates are going to be outlined in the entire document. So you're going to know when the thing is going to be done. There is no, it could be done, this day or that. No. It's going to be done. Here are the dates. They're all the things that are going to be done. How do you know that? How can you figure that out? That's pretty solid. Dude, what if you can't do it, right? What if there's a piece of technology you can't figure out, right? What do you do then? You build it in, right? You kind of have to say, well, I don't know how long this is going to take. If you and I were sitting together in a room saying, okay, the customer has asked for this special feature in their application. Do we know how to do it? And someone says, no, we don't. We don't even know if it can be done, right? We think it can be. We're not quite sure how to do it. I've never done it before. How would I charge that? And usually I would triple it in terms of times, right? Seriously. Like if I say, well, if it's a normal feature and it's going to, a special feature takes like 15 to 20 hours to build, I would say that's like, it's going to cost like 40, 50 hours. Why? It's a custom thing they're asking for. So they're going to pay for it if they really want it, right? And you give yourself some time to figure out how to do it. You're going to get them to pay for your learning, all right? Don't you pay for the learning. I'm not going to tell you to overestimate things, but it's really important when you do your estimation that you break down your estimation line by line, exactly what's going to happen. You're going to know all your costs up front, everything from how long it's going to take you to do something, how long it's going to take you to meet travel time, the whole thing. Build it all into your estimate. And then all you need to tell them is, these are the due dates, and this is the cost. Don't give them details. Don't tell them it's going to take 5 hours to build your server and 3 hours to do this. Because you know what? They can question it. They can say, hey, Tom, what do you mean 10 hours for your server? That takes me 10 minutes, right? Yeah, but what are you doing on your server? What does that 10 hours mean to you? Does it mean that I'm going to set up Azure? I'm going to set up SSL certificates. I'm going to test the certificate. There's also testing time involved as well in this thing. So think about this. These are all the phases. And if I was going to put a check mark beside each of these little pieces here, I'm going to show you this again one day, and not today, but we won't go too much into it. But let's say, for example, competitive analysis. I'm analyzing, what the market is right out there. They're paying for that. How many hours of market analysis am I going to spend? Maybe one? That's check. I've done that. Okay, what about other things? What about gathering materials or gathering content from the client? I got to interface with the client back and forth. Maybe there's 5 or 6 hours of talking with the client. Check, right? And then who does what? That's the other one. So am I going to give it to Cindy or Lucy? Because they're going to work with me, right? So is Lucy going to be the back-end developer primarily? Is Cindy going to be the front-end developer? And do I have somebody else that's going to do something else for me, right? Who's going to do what? And when are they going to do it? And what's the order of them doing it? These are all the things you're going to have to lay out here in your project plan, right? So you guys done any project work with Jared? I'm pretty sure you have. Jared? No? You are taking it?
Right.
Coming up? Or this semester right now?
Yeah, right now.
Oh. Well, anyways, but if you do, when you do project management best practices, the one thing to understand, you're doing systems analysis and design?
Yeah, we're ready.
You already took it, right? So some of this is there, right? You should have had something like this in there, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because now you're heading into your final project, and I want you to keep this in mind. So I want you to give me an estimate of how long your project is going to take, like 40 hours, right? I'm telling you, you're low. You're low.
I believe you.
Yeah. If you look at all these things and you start checking these off, right? And then, well, there's no client. I'm the client. But if you start checking these things off and sit there and go, okay, it's going to take this many hours to do this and blah, 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 who's going to do what? Who's going to put it up on Azure? Who? Someone's got to be responsible for that in your team, right? And then who's going to be doing testing? Who are the testers in your team? Is it going to be everybody who's going to do the testing? We don't do that, guys. Don't do it, right? You don't want to spread that job out. One person do the testing, one person do the deployment, one person do the front end, one person do the back end, one person do the documentation for this that you're going to have to hand to me, right? One. Because if you have too many hands in the pie, it's like too many chefs, right? You want to allocate as much of the jobs, split it up as much as possible between everybody so everyone has work to do. Use your horses, sorry to say that, as much as possible to pull the cart. Don't have 3 horses working and 1 horse trailing, all right? That's bad, right? Then you don't need the other horse. Kick him out, right? Get him out of there, right? If he's not doing any work for you, he shouldn't be part of the project, right? So, or don't include him in the first place. Questions around this? I'm going to put it up. It's being recorded, so you could always look back on this and say, look, these are all the check marks. I'm also going to share this up on Blackboard with you guys so you have a copy of this at a high level. Do all these apply? All these things apply? No, they probably don't all apply. But it's okay. It's good to know from an overview perspective, what maybe one opinion of building a website and doing a proposal is. And if you notice in every phase, there's some deliverables. Like for planning phase, there's the project brief. Okay, guys, yeah, you've accepted our proposal. Here's what your project's going to look like. More details, right? For the build phase, here's your staging site. We're starting to build things. You can go here this day, and this day. There's going to be some. We're going to be doing some phase. We're going to be phasing in some changes. And you can see at those days when you'll see the features coming online, right? Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes you don't want your client to look at a broken site before it's done, right? So you don't want to put a staging site together until you're further along, right? Just from an optics perspective. And then your deployment phase, even you're deploying, and I target a date. Let's say, for example, I'm targeting a Friday, right? Like I told you, you have to have a pretty firm date, Friday. But what if something goes wrong? Like if something goes wrong, Azure didn't work. Right, you tested, and then something changed, or there's a breaking change on the server, or some kind of technology used. It's not working. What do? You have a failover date, right? And you tell that to the client. You say, our target date is Friday, and our failover date is Monday. We're going to fix it on the weekend, right? Kind of thing. So that's the target date. You always set that up, a target and failover date. And it could be not Friday. Maybe there are businesses on the weekend, so you don't do it on Friday. You do it on a Monday, and you fail over on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it's going to be. Like a rain date kind of thing. And then finally, your project closeout. One thing that we produce is this final style guide, right? This final style guide. But the final style guide for me is your external document, right? That's a deliverable in your final phase. right? Notice there's 5 phases and we only have 4 weeks. I wish I had another week to give you, right? Because then it would be perfect. 1 week, 1 phase, right? But we don't have that time. We don't have the luxury of the time. For the most part, you can probably get this done in 4 weeks or 3 weeks. You don't have exactly 4 weeks. And the other thing that we don't do enough of is we don't say things like, hey, you know, I'm never too busy for one of your referrals, right? Because one of our jobs when we're independent web people is to always ask for referrals, because that's the best type of business lead, right? You don't want to go shopping or hunting for business. You want someone saying, hey, Tom, I really like we did last time on your website. Can you do one for me? Yeah, sure. I'll come in and I'll bring my team in to do a proposal for you, right? That's what you do, right? So you don't say, oh, no, I'm too busy. There's no way, I can't do it. Sure, no problem. Tell me what you need, and I'll make an appointment with you, and we'll send somebody over, right? What about if they say something like this? Can you do my logo for me? I'm really tired of my logo, and I want you to do it for me. Or, you know what, my photography is a little old, and I want you to get my photography done as well. Could you do that too? It's web design. Do you do that? No, you don't. This is not. You're not a content, copywriter. You're not a photographer, and you're not a graphic artist. But you're not going to say no. What you're going to say is, sure, I can do that for you, right? And you're going to find a graphic artist or a photographer, or you're going to find a copywriter, and they're going to do this work for you. And you're going to charge what they charge you on top of that. And you're going to get their estimate in your proposal. You're going to say, fine, but we need to get a little bit more detail from you in terms of what exactly you're looking for. I'm going to send in a copywriter, to kind of get some information from you. We need to do a little bit of a deep discovery. And sometimes your proposal can take a month to come up, right? Because you're gathering information. And you're going to spend time, resources, your money to put together a proposal, right? And what if they don't accept your proposal at the end, right? Possible. It means you spend all this money and time to hire all these people to come in and check this out and give them estimates, and there's zero work for you, right? That's possible, right? Just FYI. But it's better that than you're into the project and they say, hey, we might as well do this, right? Because you're into the project, you might as well. Can you do this? And then you know what we get into, because we're so excited about making money. We go, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Yes, I'll do it for you. And then we can't finish on time. It's impossible. We write ourselves into a hole. We accept something that's not part of our job, right? And a lot of that is, I don't do logo work, right? You should say that in your mind. I'm not a graphic artist. If you are, fantastic. But if you're not, like most of you aren't, you should say that in your mind. I'm not a graphic artist. I'm not, okay? I'm not a photographer. I am not a copywriter. I am a web developer, and that's what I do. That's all I do. I hire somebody else to do that piece, right? And there's plenty of people out there that you could find in a snap to do that kind of work. There's people here at this college, right, that do graphic arts, right? Hire them, right? They'll gladly work for $15 an hour to do something where you're going to charge the client $40 an hour, right? No, really, look, don't say no ever. This is opportunity for you to make money, unless it's something way out there. Like someone says, I want to make a sex video, or something weird, right? Say no, right, to that one. No, I say no, right? Something weird is what I'm saying. Something that's really morally you don't agree with it. Doesn't matter whether you like the money. Morally, it's not in you to do, or it's something that you don't want to do, or you don't think you're capable of, or you're not interested in. If you're really not interested in doing the work, don't do it, right? There's nothing worse than you doing a job for someone you got a body shop that wants you to take pictures of their the whole process, and you don't want to do body shop work. You don't want to do any kind of work, websites for body shops. Don't do the work. Pass it on. Say, you know what, guys, I'm too busy, right? If you really don't want it, choose your work. I know it sounds crazy, but what if they say to you? Here's another thing before I end for this little speech. What if they say to you, you know what, Tom, you're too expensive. Can you cut it down? Can you sharpen your pencil a little bit? And I know you said 100 hours. Whatever. It's going to take you 100 hours. Don't tell them the hour. You say it's going to take you this much money. Can you sharpen your pencils and cut it down by 20%? What's your answer? No, I can't. You cut that down by 20%, you're cutting your throat, right? Like literally, you'll be paying them to do their website for them pretty soon, right? That's how it's going to be. You cannot do that, right? It's better to say no and not do it, especially things like, can you build a website for me for $500? That is absolute a no. Don't say yes to that. That is like crazy talk, right? That is like you saying, yeah, I'm going to put a WordPress site up for you. Now, what if they say to you, I only want a one-page site? I'm talking like a one-page site, not a single-page site, right? Okay, that's $500. No problem. I'll do that for $500. One-page site. What? One-page site, $500? Are you nuts? I can do that for like 200. Go ahead, do it. Guys, there's maintenance, there's responsibility, there's all kinds of stuff around it. There's insurance, right? There's something that goes wrong. You know, anything that can happen, it can sue you, right? So please don't do those things. For $500, it's not worth it, man. See you later, right? I want nothing to do with that, right? You want something that's a client that's respectable and that's going to pay you on time. Make sure you get as much down as possible. That's another rule. If you're going to look at a Tom rule, 50% down so you can get it down, right? Just like they do in the contractors. You know, you go make your house and they say, hey, you know what? You want me to build this shack for you? 50% down. It's going to cost you $20,000, right? Shack, right? That's how it is, right? And so what's wrong with us? Why can't we ask 50%? You can ask whatever you want. In fact, I've taken as much as 100% down payment up front. And the reason for that is because it secures the fact that you're going to get paid. Now, there's a danger to taking 100% down. What's the danger? Anybody? What's the danger of getting 100% down?
No reason to do the work.
Was that?
You feel like there's no reason to do the work.
Well, even if you do take 100% down, don't pay everybody 100%. That's number one, right? But what's the other reason why it's dangerous to get 100%?
You're unhappy with
Hmm?
the client's not happy with what you did.
You want your money back, right? And you go and spend the money already. That's bad, right? So if you get 100% down, what do? Put it aside, like you don't have it yet. And that way, worst case scenario, you can say, here's your money. Thanks a lot. Didn't work out. I understand. We'll do better next time, right? But it's better than saying, I took your money, I spent it already, I went on vacation, and I have nothing, right? You can chase me in small claims, right? That's not going to happen. That is terrible for your reputation, right? Because they're going to talk, and they're going to talk to somebody else, and they're going to talk to somebody else, and then eventually you're never going to get work, right? So you don't want that. So please know the communities are pretty small, and people talk to other people, and the worst thing is a bad reputation. This company, X, they always do poor work. They never deliver on time. And you know what? When we tried to get our money back last time, they didn't give it back to us. They fought us in small claims. That's a bad thing, right? So keep your money going. Make sure that when you accept everything, you put it aside and ask for the money when you're supposed to. Have a schedule of money. Try and get 50% down. So your initial deposit should be 30 to 50%, right? I would say lowest 30. Sometimes you have no choice. If it's a big project or if it's something you're working with the government, they don't pay you for 60 days. Just the way it is, right? So you're gonna have to live somehow for 60 days before getting paid. I'm just telling you that's how it is, right? So if you work for the government, Bell Canada, some big company like that, they'll pay you 60 days later, right? So expect that to happen, right? So, but for normal clients, 30 to 50% down is where you should start off with the engagement phase, right? Once they accept your proposal, 30 to 50% down. Then schedule in some payments as you go. So hey, here's my bill. What do you think? I need another, it's not done, but I need another 25%, right? So now you get 75% of your money, which in truth is 100% of your money, right? Because you're going to make 25% to 30% profit on this thing. If you don't make that, why are you doing this, right? Don't pay yourself the exact same money that you're going to charge the client. I'm paying myself $30 an hour, and I'm charging the client $30 an hour. It means you're getting paid zero, right? You make zero profit. That's what you're making. And in this thing, we're here to make money. We are professionals. We have a job to do, right? And if you say, well, it's easy for me to do, yeah, it's easy for you to do. Just like a carpenter, it's easy for a carpenter to, to frame a wall, right? But is it easy for us to frame a wall? Do I know how to do carpentry? God, no, right? Do I know how to build the envelope of a house or do demolitions? No, I can try, right? I'd be okay with it. So can they. They can try and build a website. I can build a website with Wix, and you're charging me $4,500? Build your website, man. See you later, right? Is that enough for you guys? Do you understand? Trying to give you the gist of how this works. So think about this project. I want you to role play with me. Dungeons and Dragons, okay? You guys are all, role playing with me, and you're making a website, and this is a real client thing going on. I'm the client. And I'll act like the client. So when I meet with you and you give me your proposal document, treat me like I'm the client, right? Try and sell me on this concept that you have. Even though I've sold this concept, I've been sold this concept a bunch of times, every single one, over and over again. Sell me. Tell me what your differentiator is. Tell me why I should buy from you. Okay? This is the exercise. Any other questions? No one had questions before, but it's okay. All right, let's take a short break, and when we do, I want you to start your Angular Code School stuff today, and I'm going to start sitting with your groups. So Angular Code School, Module 1 and Module 2 due today, and I'm going to put together a little lab that you're going to fill in. Okay.